approved.
Call to order the Grant County Board of Commissioners for a work session for November 7th, 2017. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the flag of the state of New Mexico is the symbol of perfect friendship among the other cultures.
Are there any changes that need to come on the work session agenda?
No, sir.
Commissioners?
Motion that we approve the work session agenda.
There's a motion to approve. And there's a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. The purpose of the Grant County work session is to inform the Grant County Board of Commissioners of the agenda items that will be addressed at the next regular meeting, and for the department heads and other elected officials to communicate with commissioners in regard to matters in their respective departments. In accordance with Grant County Resolution 1701, we welcome the public to attend. However, there will be no public input permitted at this meeting. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Charlene to review the November 9th regular meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, in your packet you have minutes for the October work session and regular meeting. We will move on to financial reports. Item C, approved, disapproved financial report ending September 30th, 2017. Linda, would you go over that, please?
Yes, Charlene. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have the financial report for the first quarter of fiscal year 2018, which ended 9/30/2017. And I'll go over the general fund, the road fund, and the jail. In the general fund, we had a beginning cash balance of $3,566,077, and revenues to date are $898,485. Transfers to date is $580,000 out. Expenditures to date $2,506,119, with an ending cash balance of $1,378,443, and leaving us with an available cash of $751,913 after the required reserve. And in the road department, which is Fund 204, if you go down on the page, or not the page, but on the worksheet, it's a beginning cash balance of $144,108, revenues to date of $182,090, Revenue transfers in are $150,000. Expenditures to date are $414,262, with a quarter ending cash balance of $61,935, leaving us with an available cash of $27,414. In the detention center, the beginning cash balance was $152,730. Revenues to date, $155,105, and transfers in of $350,000, with the expenditures to date of $646,350, with the quarter ending cash balance of $11,485, which is the available cash. Overall, grand total, the beginning cash balance was $13,125,039. Revenues to date, $4,546,988, with expenditures to date of $7,974,332, with the ending cash balance at the end of quarter of $9,697,696. And this grand total includes all the special revenues, fire departments, and all the grants, indigent fund, overall, all the funds. Any questions?
Thank you, Linda. Distracted.
I have no idea where to find her report on here. I've spent the entire report, which Linda did very well. Okay. I'm looking for it. Yeah, exactly. So if you go over there to the left-hand side of the screen and go on number C. Yeah. C. Go to the bottom. I don't have the blue highlighted. Yeah. I have numbers, not letters.
It says attachments. Yeah, don't give me that.
You're still in the work session agenda.
Yeah.
Go up here. But we're reviewing the regular meeting.
We're in the work session.
I know, but we're reviewing the regular meeting.
Okay? As you can see, I did click on this before. Yeah, I clicked there. Yeah. I'm giving a bunch of
It's not very often we can claim to be ahead of Harry Brown. Ahead of Harry Brown.
in your mic, Abby.
Yeah, it seems like the internet's a little bit slow.
Oh, mine was a little slow.
So we moving to the next one?
Something wrong with you?
It gives me time to think.
Yeah, I clicked on that.
So how about this one, object reference not set to an instance of an object?
Okay, yeah, he was different.
Sure.
It did to me too.
But it came up right and left, didn't it?
It did. It had to refresh apparently.
Yeah, that's what I got too. Well, I think what we need to do is have some mock work sessions and mock.
You know, I don't need any more meetings.
I'll read it back.
You know, dead air doesn't make good TV, just letting y'all know. Yeah,
Anybody know
so-
any jokes?
Okay, are you ready? Item D, approve, disapprove November 1, 2017 expenditure report. Linda, would you go to that, please?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have the expenditure report for the period ending November 1st, 2017. The total expenses for this period is $1,634,324.03. And included in this are highlights of the AP checks, which are any expenses of $10,000 and above, is a check to HCP Systems in the amount of $26,167.84. And this is for the September and October medical management services at the detention center. A check to Fowler Brothers in the amount of $19,723.30. And this is for road materials at the road department for their road special projects. A check to Wright Express Fleet Services in the amount of $22,156.28. And this is for the September fuel charges. A check to Ascent Aviation in the amount of $17,043.92. This is for the October 2017 jet fuel. A check to the High Desert Humane Society in the amount of $16,500. And this is for the first quarter of the fiscal year for animal control services. A check to the New Mexico State University in the amount of $15,917. And this is for the first quarter of the fiscal year for the Co-op Extension Services contribution. A check to Hilo Regional Medical Center in the amount of $32,223.91. And this is for the September indigent claims, which were previously approved in the October meeting. A check to Kansas State Bank in the amount of $25,533.28. And this is for the debt payment for the chip spreader at the road department. A check to Southwest Solid Waste Authority in the amount of $54,456.02. And this is for the September tipping fees. A check to the Tri-City Landfill Authority in the amount of $27,205. And this is for the monitoring fees. And then a check to Western Builders in the amount of $20,563.31. And this is a progress payment for the Santa Rita Fire Station construction. And also included in this expense report is payroll checks for pay period 22 and 23 totaling $384,886.28.
Thank you, Linda. Next item, under new business, item E, approve, disapprove vacation of Turnerville plat. Misha, would you please go through this?
Chairman, Commissioners, Freeport McMorran owns all of the property within the Turnerville subdivision, and they approached us to have the subdivision plat vacated. spoke with Abby about it, and we went through the special procedures in Article 7, having them present a letter to us, and then we notified all of the contiguous landowners, which happens to be Freeport, McMorran, and we're at the stage now of vacating that plat.
Does anybody live in Turnerville anymore? Every house is vacant?
There's no houses left. There's a few remnant foundations, but there are no houses left that we could find.
I haven't been down there in years. It's just, it's actually, as you cross the railroad tracks on 152 and you start up the hill, not very far past the Manhattan Bar, you take a right, and we used to have a bus stop down in there and get 9-10 kids. That's why we haven't for years. We haven't had any kids in there, but there used to be 3 or 4 houses in there.
Behind the cemetery.
Yeah, due west of...
So the idea of doing this is just so that they can use the land for something else, because they can't as long as it's
I believe
platted?
they're
Is
going
that
to use
the deal?
put the road through there, correct?
Oh, for the bridge?
From Colby.
The tracks.
Division back together.
If they own it all,
Right.
they don't want to subdivide it. I don't know why we would.
It's just about how they're going to use the land.
I don't know that we could stop them from using it that way anyway.
That's what they're doing. Vacate it.
Sorry about that. But I have no objections to the vacation. It's just if they want to use it for a haul road, I don't see why they would need to vacate the subdivision. You're doing this effectively consolidates plats, right? So that they can sell it in larger increments. Isn't that the purpose of vacating the subdivision?
Or indifferent.
I'm not sure if they
Or
want to
different,
sell it.
right.
Commissioner Brown, I think you're correct. I don't know if they have to do this, but they'd like to clean it up and just get it done.
They probably just don't want subdivision out in the middle of their
Right?
property, which makes some sense. I guess the land guy want it cleaned up too.
Okay. Yeah, I got no problems with it.
Any other questions? Moving on to item approve, disapprove Lodgers Tax Advisory Board reappointment. You have a email from Mr. Doug Dinwiddie requesting reappointment to his position on the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board, which is coming up.
We only have one position.
Yes,
And we'll wrap it.
correct.
Makes it easy.
Moving on, item G, approve, disapprove OHV letter to New Mexico Department of Transportation. Misha?
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. You have in front of you a letter to the Cabinet Secretary, Tom Church, New Mexico Department of Transportation, and I was requested to look at New Mexico highways that we would like to request the NMDOT allow the OHV, and in accordance with the OHV ordinance that you guys, that this board passed 2 months ago, I think. So this is the letter. It does have some areas where the speed limit is in excess of the 45 that we are requesting the speed limit be reduced. It is still up to the New Mexico Department of Transportation to approve this after it's sent to them.
Can they approve this partially?
Yes.
I think they can.
Yes, they can.
Can we have a better map? This is really hard. I'd like to have a map that, instead of showing the whole county, maybe, and I can come get it later or whatever, but I'd like to have a closer up map of what we're really talking.
Lisa, did you see the one that was in our share?
I did.
Okay, I thought that one was excellent.
Oh, in the Google Drive
Yeah.
folder. No, I only saw the one here and the one here. So I should look in the Google Drive.
I don't know why it would be different than the one there,
Stuff.
but I thought it was quite helpful.
Okay. I'll try that first.
And I had a couple of things. My understanding is we need to get approval by the State Highway Commission, and we're asking the Department of Transportation. Is that a technical difference important?
I'm just following the CP 71
That's what I'm talking about too.
Yeah, and in CP 71, that is the New Mexico Department of Transportation, and we have to take it to Cabinet Secretary Church. He is going to have the local planning review it prior to taking it to the commission.
So he takes it to the commission?
Correct.
Because it's the commission that passed the CP 71, as I recall, not not just Mr. Church.
This is my understanding of the process.
Okay. I guess item 2 is, what is the process for folks who live in the areas where the speed limit is being proposed to be reduced to have input into this decision?
I am not sure.
Does anybody here have any idea?
I have no idea what we're talking about.
I realize that. It's your signature on this letter, so I'm looking at you. My question was, is there any process by which people who live in the areas where the speed limits are proposed to be reduced have a chance to provide input?
Did you tell them which areas those were?
I know.
Trying to help.
It's through the members north, through the members south, and on PA Road between Silver City and Sanctuary Road.
Commissioner Brown, I would suspect that that might be, we can follow up with Department of Transportation. That might be a process, since it's their decision whether or not they choose to do that, if they have a public input or a public hearing before they make those decisions. They did something very similar in Red River, and that's kind of how this letter was patterned after in that process. So we can, before Thursday, we can try to make contact with DOT and see what their process is for gaining public input for people who live in those areas. We can try to have that answer
For my
Thursday.
fellow commissioners' consideration, I guess that seems a little bit like passing the buck. We're the ones who are sending the letter, right? We as a commission, it seems to me, ought to find out what our constituents feel before we send the letter. I think it would be fully appropriate for the highway department also to hold public input sessions. But we're under no obligation to send this letter, certainly no obligation to send it anytime immediately. Why wouldn't we try to find out what people feel about having their speed limits reduced?
So the one is north of town.
Yeah, between, the vet's office and Sanctuary Road, there's a 50-mile-an-hour section. I find it hard to stay to 50 miles an hour. I drive that one regularly. And, parts of it feel like they should be 55. It would be even harder, of course, for me to go 45. This is not a huge objection, but I do believe public input should be solicited.
I would agree with that. I do agree with that. And also, I don't need a map because Mr. Billings knew how to make it bigger on my iPad.
Wow!
Why is everybody so proud?
Just everything you say.
So you chose not to do 180 to Riverside, because that was one we talked about.
You can go the other way and the speed limit's already 35.
Oh. Okay.
So is it necessary to reduce these speeds if the OHVs are going to be on the road?
And I think you would get a tremendous interest back from the residents out there.
So that's on state statute, correct?
Yeah, my understanding is you still have to approve OHVs on state highways anywhere a speed limit is greater than 45 miles an hour, which started at 35, and then they amended it some months later to make it 45.
I thought it started at 55.
I think someone proposed it, okay. It's not my recollection. So another one is through members north on 35, right, by the airport there, for about 2.5 miles, as I recall. I think it's 55 there, proposed to go down to 45.
That's right.
And then south to San Juan, and then I think it must be after Royal John Mine Road, it must once again increase to 50 for some
Between Royal John Mine and Faywood or something like
Yeah,
that.
somewhere in there.
But it doesn't bother me if you want to take the increase in speed limits out completely.
So my understanding at that point is you may as well not request that those routes be designated for OHVs because they can't do it if it's over 45 mile an hour speed limit.
What happens now, Sheriff, if they use the easement but not the highway? Because I see them there all the time, like in the Meavers area.
Yeah.
Can they drive next to the highway
They are allowed as long as they're not on the pavement.
as long as they're not on the pavement?
Correct.
Does the shoulder count as pavement? Because in that section, it is paved shoulder.
Right. And it just depends if they get caught. A lot of them do it without being caught, so.
Okay, well, we're talking about what's allowed rather than...
Mr. Chairman, I believe Commissioner Brown's correct that I think the policy from the state sets the speed limit at 45, so if you took that out, he's
We gotta take those portions of road.
Correct.
I agree. And I don't know exactly, this doesn't tell me exactly how much that is. It leaves everything at Cliff, leaves the majority of everything north. There's Sanctuary Road.
It affects 3 of the 9 segments. We've got 9 segments listed in the letter.
In the Meavers area, there are a lot of ranchers that would love to utilize that, I'm sure. That's the only bad part. But not everybody's a rancher out there. Although it would help a lot. But if they can still utilize the dirt next to it,
Mr. Ramos, is that north or south of 152 where you're picturing?
I'm thinking right there by the airport.
Okay, so north of 152.
Chairman, Commissioners, on 152, sorry, no, 152, on 35, north of 152, yes, that portion that's right there in front of the Casas Adobes, that's where there's actually a couple of different, it's 55 and it's 50. It doesn't drop to 45 until just before the post office, and that's right around our volunteer fire department. From there, it's 45 the rest of the way. So that one, it's fairly easy to take that section out if that's something that we decided to do. It's just that section, would not be allowed, even, no telling that DOT would even allow it
The
anyway.
fence is right on the road there, there's not really a lot of room.
Yeah, it's it's 61, that's a little bit more difficult, when you take out the 50 mile an hour speed limits. If you see in there, the speed limit, is 50 until approximately mile marker 23, and then drops to 35. And then at mile marker 22, it goes back up to 50 until mile marker 20, when it drops back to 45. So we can take those out, just understand that, those sections, that just makes it a little bit more difficult if we're trying to make whole sections.
It doesn't keep it clean when you're trying to have law enforcement. That's for sure. Some of it's on, some of it's off, some of it's on, some of it's off. I'd rather have it all on. Because I'm talking to Earl, he doesn't like him driving next to it because it beats down the edges.
It's erosion of the base course of the...
Uh-huh. Probably the one that I see is the most useless portion to reduce to 45 is the one you talked about originally, which is down to Sanctuary.
I agree that would be the most useless.
And the rest of that on the members, I think we ought to continue to ask for because those are the people who are going to use it. I don't think you're going to have any issues with people not wanting to use that.
So what would you think of holding at least one public meeting in the valley, so we could ask folks how they felt about that?
What is your district you represent?
Yeah, I represent all that district.
If you feel that
And I haven't had anybody call me that didn't want this. Not one person that lives out there.
And they realize their speed limit might be cut.
The only people that are probably going to disagree with that are the people driving trucks.
That's what I'm picturing.
Huh? Minis? I'm not talking pickups. I'm talking trucks.
Well, regardless, I mean, I think we should give people the opportunity to give feedback about how they feel about it happening in their area. And I think it's our responsibility to give people that opportunity.
Okay.
discussion?
I do. Just in general, I went from most specific to most general. In general, I think this is premature. I think we just passed a couple months ago the ordinance. I don't see the rush to expand the coverage of that ordinance, and I was looking forward to sort of a test period where we could see the effect of our ordinance on road safety and on quality of life.
Plus, I can see this bettering your situation, Sheriff. I mean, I really can. So I think we ought to leave it on, and it's not going to be our final decision anyways. At least the options there, see what they want to do when it comes to the state.
I think that was you're essentially saying you disagree with what I said, or didn't register at all?
It did register.
Okay, I wasn't sure, because you just went...
But I just finished telling you, did it register when I told you that it'll make his job easier?
Well, yeah, I just felt like I had raised
Let it register.
Well,
To make it easier.
I'd like to have a civil discussion in which I guess we respond to each other in order. So I said one thing, and then I
That's
couldn't
correct.
tell.
Go ahead.
So I couldn't tell if you... So you disagree with the idea of the test period?
No, I didn't say I disagreed with the test period.
Oh.
Did I say that, Mary Alice?
You just went into another subject entirely, is why I felt like you
No,
disagreed with
I
it.
just feel that we ought to continue with this. If it passes, then we'll send it to the state. I really feel that we need to go ahead and help the sheriff's situation on patrolling, and that way they're not having to give a bunch of warnings and make things difficult out there. So I think we ought to just go ahead and leave it on, see if it passes. If it doesn't pass, then we'll look elsewhere.
Okay, well, just to be clear, that is very clearly disagreeing with the idea of a test period. So there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with it, but that, right, if you want to leave it on and go ahead and do it, that means there's no test period, which is what I'm suggesting, that we wait, I would say 2 years, to see the effect of our ordinance. That's the test period I was referring to.
So why is there not going to be a test period? I mean, if there's going to be a test period, we could always remove it whenever we want.
No, the test period is of our ordinance, to see the effect of our ordinance, not the effect of
Not the effect of
expanding
the
it. Yeah, so the reason is, I think that the safety dangers are much greater on the roads we're talking about now than on the roads we're talking about when we approved the ordinance.
I think we can argue this all day long, but we're probably going to argue about this on Thursday also, so let's just go ahead and move on.
I thought that was the purpose of a work session, was to compare ideas.
It is. You guys both know that this was my plan all along. When I introduced the first ordinance, that the next progression was going to be to have a letter written. And that's why I had Alicia and I talked about it. She voiced her concerns about it.
Shockingly, she and I don't share the broken mind meld.
So anyway,
Okay, I didn't realize that.
we can have amendments, we can do all kinds of stuff on Thursday, but I'm not willing to pull it off today.
That's fine. I really want to just air my feelings about it and see how other people feel about it.
And I get your feeling, I understand, you want to really see how it is on the county roads for a couple of years. And
Yeah, I hate the
I'm
idea.
not here in a couple of years, so I want to see how it works now.
Fair enough. I hate the idea of us doing something and taking it back. I think that model is a really poor model for county government.
But I probably would support an amendment taking out 15 from town to sanctuary.
If it's okay, I'll get with Risha and get some questions answered between now and Thursday, and I'll be more ready to have the discussion. But yeah, I have questions about the PA road too. But
So I'm just going to reiterate the idea that I think we should have a public hearing before we pass this letter.
You're ready to move on, Mr. Chairman? Next, item H, approve, disapprove dedication of roads in Branding Iron subdivision. Commissioner, you want to begin?
Thank you, Shirley. Chairman, Commissioners, so We've been engaged in conversation with Lucky Strike LLC, Gage Sippy, who is the developer of Branding Iron. And in order to move forward with any discussions about the roads and the county taking on road maintenance, the first issue that we found was that the roads were never officially dedicated to the public. So that is this first step. And that's what we're doing right now, is he is dedicating those roads within the Branding Iron subdivision to the public.
Do they meet our specs?
Currently, to take over for maintenance, no. And that's why we're not discussing maintenance. In order for that discussion of meeting our specs or any variances that may be required based on the subdivision regulations, we had to have them dedicated to the public.
You know, that was the first subdivision that was done with the joint group that proved to be another disaster.
Mr. Chairman, on that note, Silver City is on the same page with us, if that's what you're talking about.
That's about time.
So, to get the roads in a better shape, and so that we can take on maintenance, is what I mean.
Misha, this is, I attended a meeting on this when I was so new, I probably didn't know any of that thing about what I was doing, but correct me if I'm wrong, but Lucky Strike is paying to have those roads brought up to county standards, correct?
Yes, Lucky Strike has verbally agreed as we move forward with the discussion of getting them to whatever standard we're going to require that they would pay to do that.
So the process then would be to dedicate them now and then go back to Lucky Strike for a written agreement that they're willing to bring them up to standard before we proceeded with any other action? Is that how that would work?
I'm not sure if we need a written agreement. In the end, we decide whether we will take on those roads or not.
Okay.
So if they don't agree, then, and they don't do what we require or permit,
We just don't take
the
them.
roads. So it behooves them to bring them to our standards that we require. I don't believe we have, we're still figuring that out, but we're on the right track and we're working with the developers and
I'm really concerned about taking over the maintenance because all the bar ditches are filled with rocks. It's going to be virtually impossible to ever pull a bar ditch and clean them out. Am I wrong, Earl? You've looked at it?
Yes, sir. I voiced those opinions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we agreed to do, like, take over the roads, but as far as the drainage and that flood system that they've got in there, that the homeowners or themselves will maintain that themselves.
Right, until it plugs up and washes out your road.
But like I said, we haven't agreed on anything yet.
Okay.
As far as that, whenever we get everything done where it comes down to that, then we'll have a meeting with them and make sure we cross all the T's and dot the I's on there.
And so if it was up to the homeowners to clean up the bar ditches and all that sort of stuff and that they didn't, but we had a washout on the county maintained road bed, how would we assess the homeowners for our cost of the road bed, or would we? So I guess what I'm asking is, what is our legal,
right now. We have to look into it and see our avenues to collect on that, or
But we don't, if we have concerns about that, then we have a lot of time to deal with that. So we just need to dedicate
right
it
now
so
it's
that we
just
can get.
and the dedication of roads in a subdivision is common. It's out of the ordinary that these were not dedicated way back when. I believe Misha figured it out that the roads were not dedicated, and before we can even start to think about this, we have to get them dedicated.
So I have some newbie questions. If we accept the dedication, are we then getting an easement? Is that technically what's happening? We're dedicating an easement?
No, I believe we're getting a fee simple.
So in that case, that reduces the property on which they pay property taxes, is that correct?
Correct.
So there is some probably pretty small fiscal impact on the county of doing this.
Very minimal, yeah.
And you're hoping, just to add to that when they bring the roads up to standards, that the property values go up rather than down, because nobody's maintaining them right now.
Right. So I agree with that hope.
And that's all.
What happens if we eventually reject requests to take over the roads? That doesn't delete this dedication, right?
No,
Although at that point, there would be
But we still
little hope
want-
of achieving what we want.
And it's kind of like that subdivision out there at Santa Rita, where we already owned the roads, but they were dedicated to us in the late 60s, but we never took over maintenance. And those homeowners had to pay to bring them up to speed. Now, it's totally different on the subdivision out here in Arenas Valley, where those roads had never been dedicated to us, so they had to be dedicated then brought up to, so that's what these are, and that joint group let this fall completely through the cracks, because this is a new subdivision. This is only 10 years old. Maybe 12.
this is a difficult situation, and it is, again, not uncommon. This road where developers run out of money or they can't sell enough properties to finish the roads in the manner that they've agreed to. And we often have to go back and walk through these steps. It's sort of just part of the subdivision process. I wish it didn't happen, but it happens. It's not uncommon.
Now, the other thing is,
And just because they dedicate doesn't mean we're taking on maintenance,
Right.
you understand that. But it also doesn't prevent the homeowners from doing something themselves. I believe in the covenants, I think that's what they read, there is an alternative for the homeowner association to deal with maintenance as well. And if the county didn't take over. That's correct. I don't think the homeowners association is active at this time. I'm just saying there are other options if in the end they were not able to meet county standards. We also have, the assessment district option for the homeowners, which
I was told if they ever did another one of those.
maybe the county's not interested in that anymore, but there are options.
We had to do them on the other thing. These, they shouldn't have to. This is too much. Now, the
However,
other
the
thing,
next-
once we take over maintenance on a road, we also get a little bit of money from the state to maintain that road. I don't know exactly how much it is. It's not very much, but we get some money coming in per mile. That's that money on the budget that comes from health.
We are in a better situation than we are sometimes in that our developers are still involved and they haven't taken off, and they are willing to work with us, and we're trying to get these roads in the best situation possible.
And I think the developer, in my opinion, has been a very willing partner in this to work through this, so he's been very approachable.
So what's the length that we're talking about, the total length of roads and cul-de-sacs?
If I remember correctly, Chairman, Commissioner Brown, it's a mile and a half, maybe.
I wasn't sure.
And that's just a quick guess. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it was very short.
I'm not gonna have
Phase
it.
one of a three-phase plan, is that correct?
That's the projected plan that's in there, but the other phases would still have to go through the full subdivision.
Of course. Presumably they'd use the income from this phase to move forward to the next.
Correct. 8 or 10.
Well, I probably won't be here when they finish this.
I'm hoping that the people that will be, this is one of my other pet peeves, is when you start a subdivision that only has one way in and one way out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them in this county that should have never been allowed. the way they were done, just because it expedites the builder's ability to get house lots ready. And I don't know where their subdivision is, but if it's possible, when that plat comes to you for approval, make sure that you get.
So, my recollection is, I think it may be even Phase 3, not 2, that eventually connects either to Mississippi or Kentucky. Isn't that the plan, that they would have another way out when they get bigger?
I know it gets close to it, I don't know if it was actually going to come
Okay,
to
I
it.
thought there was originally a city objection to having all that traffic on Alabama. And that for that reason, they said they would have a second egress. Okay. Well, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I already talked more than I wanted to.
Moving on to item I.
Getting me nowhere.
Approve, disapprove, inventory remove from the Grant County Road Department to be slated for auction.
These are just trucks that are done.
Yes, there are 4 pickups that, yeah, as Alicia said, they're done. So we want to send them to auction.
I assume that we have figured out the most effective way to get a decent price is to take them to Cruces. Is that why we do that?
Yes.
And the only reason I ask is that, as Earl knows, it makes it difficult for local folks to actually acquire one of these vehicles. I was interested in one for the school, but there was no way I could get someone down to Cruces for that. I don't know if there's any creative way to allow some kind of a reserve bid or something, so that in case nobody else there matches it, a local bid can do it. Who's doing the auction?
Dickerson.
Charles Dickerson, this was moved on.
Really?
Yeah, we're doing
I didn't know that. Thought I had to find a proxy.
Just going to get a deposit to him and... Sure,
Okay.
we'll just do it on phone.
This auction will actually be in Deming this time.
Oh, okay. This one doesn't have a Suburban.
No,
All right, thank you.
got some Ford Camino buses.
Those are actually illegal for public K-12 schools. Western can use it, but we can't.
Is there a process to transfer a vehicle to a school like that?
There is, I was going to mention that, Commissioner Brown, there is provision in the statute to allow transfer from a local government entity to a public school without.
I had considered that potential abuse of my position, so, but thank you.
I had no principle.
You can have someone else make that request.
Stand down.
Any more questions, comments?
The Class A buses are okay. You can use those.
Now, which ones are you all interested in? Because there's remove them up here.
That's none of them here. That was the last one.
Oh, the last
that has
one, okay.
Suburban keys. Yeah. Thanks.
Moving on, item J, approve, disapprove sublease of space in the Members Senior Center in regards to the lease agreement between HMS and Grant County. In our lease agreement that we entered into for the Members Senior Center, there is a provision in there that states that if HMS chooses or would like to sublease any of that space, it has to come to the County Commission for approval. The name of the group has escaped my mind at the moment, but there is a group that produces a Members Valley newsletter, and they want to utilize a small amount of space for their copy machine to produce the newsletter that they distribute in the Members Valley. So HMS has requested approval from the commission to lease them a small amount of space.
That's Jones Valley, right? Members Valley Health Action League?
I think so.
They're going to have to charge them for the space to put their copy.
That's up to them. But I would just encourage the approval of allowing them to do this. It's a small corner of space in HMS.
Are we amending the lease?
No,
Or are we just giving them a letter?
we just will
giving
give them a
permission?
letter giving them approval to lease that
This
space.
is a one-time deal to this one group of people?
Because the current lease we have with HMS requires that we act if they're going to sublet.
Correct. Right. And HMS is the one that approached the county asking for your approval, so they are okay with it.
It's not an anti-donation issue because it's HMS's space, right? Not
In a roundabout way, yes.
Well, it's not an anti-donation because they're gonna pay for the space.
Well,
As far as we know.
That's between HMS and this group. I don't know the particulars of that. We've leased the space to HMS in order for them to lease or allow anyone else in there that needs your approval. So you can decide between now
Well,
and Thursday
HMS
whether you
pays
want
us,
to.
so there's not
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Item K, approve, disapprove distribution reversion funding application for the fiscal year 2018 DWI grant agreement, project 18-D-G-10. Randy, do you want to explain to them how this reversion amount works and why she's applying for more money?
Well, basically what it is, speaking earlier this morning about it, is that, Mr. Chairman, the Commissioners, is that it's reverted money back from last fiscal year, and they're going to use it for treatment in 2018.
So they did not spend the money last year, or they have a plan to spend it this year?
It's money that's reverted from other entities
Right.
who did not spend all of their money. It goes back into a pool, and they allow other entities to apply for that money.
So
Not
we're not
money that we
approving-
reverted.
Right.
Any more questions? Moving on to agreements, item L, approve, disapprove amendment number 2 to agreement number A1508 with the Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management subgrant number PDMC PLNM 2014-006 for hazard mitigation plan. Gilbert, do you want to come explain this, please?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. This extension is for the mitigation plan sub-grant agreement. All it's going to do is change the number of the sub-grant to that number. Let me see, where was it? PDMC at PLNM 2014-006. And it's going to extend the termination date to June 30th, 2018. That's all it does. Everything else remains the same. And this is for rewriting the Grant County Hazard Mitigation Plan, which we've been doing since, it's been ongoing since January of 2015. And we're almost done. We just had to wait for this extension to come through to complete the process. Questions?
So you're asking for a 6-month extension in order to complete the hazardous mitigation plan?
No, ma'am. FEMA actually extends the sub-grant agreements for the state, and then the state in turn extends them to us locals. I really couldn't find a reason why they extend it, which I'm glad they do, because it allows us to do a better job and a more thorough job with the plans. But it's just one of those automatic extensions that we get from time to time on some of these sub-grant agreements. We did approve the agreement with the contractor just last month, and the reason we did that is so that there wouldn't be a gap between where there could be no work completed, or if we did some work during that gap where there was a difference in the dates, then we wouldn't be able to get reimbursed. So now the whole process is complete, and we can ask for reimbursement once we complete it. And we should be done before the June 2018 timeframe.
Thank you.
Item M, approve, disapprove agreement number A1741, Grant County Bus Drivers Bargaining Unit Contract 2017 through 2019. We had contract negotiations about 2 weeks ago. The only item on the table was wages. We were able to come to an agreement. Kim had money in her budget to allow a 4% increase for the bus drivers. This contract has been ratified by that union, and so it is in front of you for approval. Questions, comments?
So I'd just like to make it clear for the record that the funds that are allowing this to happen are funds specific to Corps Caminos and have nothing to do with any part of county financing outside of Corps Caminos.
Thank you for that. Any further questions?
So I seem to recall a 2% amount being in the budget last fiscal year. And I guess my hope is that the 4% that's now being discussed, someone's considered the long-term implications of that. They're not just adding 2 and 2 and saying now it's 4.
No, that's not how we came up with that.
Just making sure.
Any other comments, questions? Item N, approve, disapprove agreement A1742, lease agreement with Matthew Orman for a hangar site at the Grant County Airport. This is an agreement that Abby and I have been working on for well over a year. Do you want to go ahead and finish this process?
Mr. Orman and Mr. Sherman have hangars at the airport, and they have ground leases with us. They're short-term. Right now, they're 5 years, but they were both interested in doing long-term leases for their hangars. And in order to do that, to do a lease more than 5 years, we have to get State Board of Finance approval, even when it is a very low dollar amount that we're receiving for it. So that is the process we are in now. So what you're seeing is almost the exact same lease that they have already entered with us, Mr. Sherman and Mr. Orman, except I have added the red lines based on the appraisal that we obtained. So you'll see some changes to adding the exact square footage or the approximate square footage, and the appraisal amount that we obtained. And then you'll see a couple changes at the very end, and those are required by the State Board of Finance. So the stage we're in now is just getting approval of this, and then we will obtain the signatures. I don't know, Bernadette is working on the signatures. I don't know if you've had any luck yet. So we'll obtain the signatures, and then we will send it up to the state with the appraisal and ask for approval.
So do we not maintain any of this? They actually maintain the portion that they lease on? Or do we maintain?
I believe they maintain their own hangar. That's what you mean. We maintain the grounds.
So this is a lease agreement with a private party who has an airplane they want to store inside, and it provides inside their hangar, and it provides income to the county.
Correct.
And it takes a year to get this done through the state.
Oh gosh, it's taken us, the longest process so far has been obtaining the appraisal and then the state approval of the appraisal. Yes, this is a very long process. When you have to obtain State Board of Finance approval for a lease, you have to get an approval, the appraisal, which sometimes takes several months, then the state review of that appraisal, which sometimes takes several months. Then you have to make sure you have everything in order for the State Board of Finance itself. So yes, it's a long process.
So at what point in this lease agreement will this revenue from this have paid for your time to do all this?
It never will. It's not even going to pay for the appraisal, no. The requirement that we get approval from the state for these leases is extremely cumbersome, and I've recommended to my affiliate several times that we pursue getting that removed from the statute.
That last thing is absurd. They don't need Board of Finance approval for a lease until the lease is worth $25,000 a year.
That is, it's either $25,000 per year or more than 5 years. And our issue here is that it's more than 5 years.
So couldn't we decide that we want a 4-year lease?
We did. Well, actually, we've entered 5-year leases because it's more than 5 years.
Okay.
But two of them were very adamant. I should say one of them. One of the lessees was very adamant that he needed a long-term lease, and I believe it had to do with his financing for the hangar itself.
Might I suggest that when that is the case, that the lessee, the proposed lessee, pay the cost of the appraisal?
I think that's a great approach.
Okay, suggested.
This started several years ago, and this is the path we've been on.
There's a very contentious discussion between
Well, we don't have to lease to him if it's going to be contentious, right? If it costs us money to provide him,
here that he owns on our piece of land, and so
I'm sure we can arrange a trucker to remove it. I mean, really, if we're going to lease,
Moving forward, it's an excellent idea to say, if you would like this lease, you need to pay for the appraisal and the cost
because
of it.
otherwise, all they have to do is settle for a 5-year lease.
Well, I think the issue is also Abby's time over the time period.
Because that's sort of a county function.
The appraisal is-
For days and days and days.
That's even worse than that. It's just, I mean, we've been through this before, State Board of Finance and DFA. Yeah, you're supposed to do this, but realistically, we found several counties that didn't, and that of course, our leasee went and found every one of those counties that didn't, said, why can't you do it like these people are doing it? And it was really, I bet it was 3 years ago we started this, wasn't it?
At least 2. I'm not sure, I'd have to look, but it's been a long process.
Just kidding.
I might fall dead. I don't know.
So what would it take to implement that policy? Can we just request a policy be written that if the
We can
lessee
just tell them.
insists on a greater than 5-year lease,
that they're responsible.
that they are responsible?
And actually,
Yeah.
in our road process, which is similar, when someone wants us to sell them a road or a piece of property, we do require them to pay for the appraisal. This one is a little out of the ordinary, and we ended up getting an appraisal for all of the lots, so we paid for it. And so we have a starter appraisal for if we wanted to continue leasing these parcels. Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, there's actually 4 lots, 2 of them have hangers on them, so we appraise all 4 in case.
Actually, I'm sorry, there's
seven total. Right in that.
So we're in a good position moving forward. It was just the startup cost, yeah. But there's no reason why we couldn't charge in the future if we had to update that appraisal.
You want people to want to build a hangar at your airport and have a thriving airport and be able to sell fuel to them and
Agreed.
all those kind of things. I mean, it costs us a bunch of money, but, well, you know, Big Brother's going to tell you if you can or you can't. It's part of being a finger of the state government is they want you to take care of yourself right up until they decide you can't.
Not wasting more time on this, but what's the history of this hangar? Was it formerly belong to someone else? And,
They were sold and,
okay.
yes.
So they were sold, but the lease can't be, or was the lease sold with it till, did the lease go with the sale until it expired? Okay.
It's been one.
That transaction was before my time, but this began probably about 6 months after I started, so I'm going to say we worked on this for about 2.5 years.
That's probably about my memory of it.
I mean, for the financing to purchase the hangar, the transfer itself is why we had to enter the new lease and,
Okay.
with the lessee.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
Moving on to resolutions, item P, approve, disapprove resolution R-1752, allocation of funding for the 2018 Colonias application. Misha?
Thank you. Chairman, Commissioners, Resolution R-1752 is a resolution that's needed for the application for the Colonias for 2018. We've already submitted the notice of intent, just like we did with the Water Trust Board, and the resolution comes along with it. The application's open on December 4th. I was moving a little bit quicker this time, so I'm able to get the resolution in prior to having to do the application. So this allocates the 10% loan requirement and the 10% in kind, both being $110,000 for the application of $1.1 million to try to finish out Rosedale Road, which is been an ongoing project for a long time.
Any questions for Misha? Okay, moving on. Item Q, approve, disapprove resolution number R-1753, a resolution authorizing Grant County to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Caterpillar Financial Corporation. Actually, this resolution gives me the authority to sign that agreement. You've already approved the purchase of when we bought the blades, and it was the two-part process that I explained to you. Once that paperwork is complete, this gives me the authority to sign that, and this is how it's been done here in the past. Any questions? No? Item R, approve, disapprove resolution R-1754, a resolution stepping up to reduce the number of mental illnesses in jails. This is a resolution that I'm putting forth as a first step in exploring what is called the Stepping Up Initiative, and it's a national initiative to reduce the number of people in jails with mental illness. It is a sequential intercept model that has approximately 6 different steps that involves diverting the mentally ill from jails, beginning with law enforcement, EMS, utilizing the court system, probation, parole, finding different alternatives other than the jail becoming the dumping ground for the mentally ill. It is a national, there's approximately 330 counties in the nation that have implemented this program. There's 9 counties in New Mexico. It has a proven track record. It has some backing of Senator Papin, who actually introduced some legislation last year that allows for some outpatient programs that become a part of this. This also ties in really well with TUCASA once that's open. So it's something that I would like to explore. We have the 2 ladies who run the program in Joliet County who will be making a presentation on November 16th. We'll make sure that you guys get an invitation to that to learn more about how their program works. And the whole goal is to, once again, deal with the mental illness in jails. And, you know, national statistics and statistics that you would find here is the mentally ill also have drug and alcohol abuse problems. And so you find that these inmates tend to stay in jail longer because of the treatment. They tend to revert back into the system, and so it's just a goal to get those people the help they need, not get dumped in the jail. So this is just a resolution saying we support the program and let us move forward.
I have a request that the resolution the title would actually read, Stepping Up to Reduce the Number of People with Mental Illnesses in Jails.
That's very good. Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh.
We can change that.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, this just gives, essentially, we're just saying that we want to move forward with finding a solution to this problem, this challenge, correct? Thank you for taking the initiative to start working on this.
You anticipate if you move forward with this, in the end, there'll be a financial commitment associated with this program.
Yes.
Not that I'm opposed to it at all.
Yes, there would be, because it becomes a county program, you have to have someone to run that program. But the successful programs have community partners, so you would be looking at, you know, perhaps HMS, who are already partnering with TUCASA, partnering with the hospital, getting the judicial system on board, probation and parole, who all play a key factor in all of this and each of the intercepts. So it's
You didn't
you have to
mention the
have
town.
community buy-in to the town of Silver City
The town currently partners with us on
the inmate support program.
right.
This
So
would
we could
actually essentially,
supersede that.
yes, which I think this is a better program. This is a proven program, not a pilot program. This has proven statistics that it works. And I'd like to give it every shot here to see if we can
Well, it sounds great. Have we had conversations already with some of those other partners you mentioned?
I have had some initial conversation with Dr. Bowen of HMS. He is already aware of this and became quite excited when I did mention it in a meeting. They're very interested. They're invited to the table, as well as the hospital. So we will have this presentation from Diana County, just to give us an idea of how their program works, what's been successful, what's not. And then we will be reaching out to potential partners in the community. If I can't get a buy-in from the community, then I obviously can't make this work, but I want to give it a shot.
When will that presentation be, do you know?
It'll be November 16th from 11 to 1. I will send you guys the invitation. We just finalized those details yesterday, so I'll get that to you.
So basically, the idea would be to invite all these potential partners to come next Friday, or whatever that, I think that's next Friday, right, next Thursday, to get them excited about the possibility that this would address some of those issues and then ultimately result in some kind of joint agreement to support the cost of the program across these partners, right?
Correct. And also as part of, when you talk about the financial contribution, I've been doing some exploration. There are some grant opportunities out there for startup as well as ongoing costs. Those are available. I'm sure they're quite competitive, but there are some grant opportunities out there.
That's great. Thanks for pursuing that.
Next item S, approve, disapprove resolution R-1755, fiscal year 2018 budget adjustment. Linda?
Chairman, members of the board, we have a resolution for several budget adjustments for approval. One of them is being the temporary cash transfer out from the general fund into the Senior Services 27 congregate meals. We're waiting on some reimbursements for this. There's also a temporary cash transfer going into the DWI grant distribution in the amount of $1,416, and this is for a reimbursement that's also pending. Then we have a permanent cash transfer of $22,104.50, and that is also going into the congregate meals for the senior services. And this is pertaining to the transition period from Grant County to HMS. And then we have a transfer out, a permanent cash transfer out into the Tyrone Federal Fire Assistance Grant. It's coming out of the Tyrone Fire Department into this grant that was awarded to them for to purchase some bunker gear, I believe is what they're wanting to purchase. And that grant agreement was for $18,701 total. So we're increasing the expenses by that amount, and the actual grant awarded was $17,000 in revenue. Then we also have another federal fire assistance grant. This is for the Santa Rita Fire Department. So there'll be a permanent cash transfer out from Santa Rita Fire Department in the amount of $1,899.53. And the revenue for this grant is $17,095.73. Total expenses is $18,995.26 that will be increasing for that grant. Then we also have the Correcaminos 2018 administration grant that was awarded to them, and increasing revenue and expenses by $386,000. And also their operating grant for Correcaminos for fiscal year 2018 will be increasing expenses and revenue by $723,996. So the grand total of cash transfers out will be $11,429.50, and in of the $11,429 that'll go into the different grants, and also the permanent cash transfers of $25,705.03 going in and out, and again it's for multiple grants. And then we'll be increasing revenue by a total of $1,144,091.73, and that's for all the grants. And again, expenses increasing for a total of $1,147,692.26, and that's also for the grants. So basically, all these adjustments are pertaining to grass.
Any questions from you? No. Moving on to bids and request for proposals, item T, approve, disapprove IFB bid number B1705, hauling and delivering of pit run and other road material for the Grant County Road Department. Earl and I discussed this morning. We would like to request that you table this item and item U so we can do some further analyzing of the cost. I'm not sure that either one is truly advantageous to the county. We sort of rushed this to get this on the agenda, and neither one of us have had time to look at it close enough. So I'd like to request that we table this until December, both item T and U. Item U is approve, disapprove bid number B1706, road materials for the Grant County Road Department. Next item is to convene the Grant County Healthcare Claims Board. Item V, approve, disapprove October 2017 health plan claims in the amount of $28,723.08. And when my internet works. So we have 9 claims to Gila Regional Medical Center in the amount of $27,343.33. Of those claims, there are 2 claims back from May that do not fall within the terms of our ordinance. They're supposed to be submitted within 90 days. We're in the process of negotiating those, so this amount may change and reduce by that amount. We have a claim of $902 and a claim of $13,395 that was not submitted in a timely fashion. So we're in discussions with Gila Regional on both of those currently. So this may potentially change for your approval on Thursday. There are 2 claims to Gila Regional Medical Center Ambulance in the amount of $1,379.75.
What would be the advantage of denying the claims that were submitted late?
They can either write it off in charity care, or they can bill us in another fashion. But it's, according, if they're going to run this through indigent, it's an ordinance, and it says they must be submitted within 90 days of the date of service or when they were released, or they have to request another 90-day extension for 180 days. They did not do that.
It sounds non-discretionary, but you were talking about negotiating.
Well, if they want to request, if they want to make that request, but more than likely I'm going to push these back. They should have submitted them in a timely fashion and not go back and dig up claims that they can push through on the indigent fund.
Although we understand probably why they're having to do that. But, okay.
Other questions on that? No? So that concludes our agenda.
The next item on the agenda is county reports. Go ahead, Joseph.
Chairman, members of the board, I'll begin the report for Administrator Carrillo today. The 2017 Department Policies and Procedures are being reviewed. We do have 2 detention officer trainees that began employment with us yesterday, November 6th. We do have 3 remaining vacancies, which we are accepting applications currently. We are working on our facility assessments. We are working on our core standards with NMAC, and we're continuing that work. And our training update, our officer, Mary Dominguez, has completed field training certification, so that makes her eligible to be a field training officer. We lost our 2 field training officers within the last year, so we do have Sergeant Galindo and now Mary Dominguez that can complete that task. Sergeant Galindo conducted district court transports on Mondays and during the week also, and he conducted CYFD transports and hearings every Wednesday, and he has continued his FTO training with our newly hired officer, Grijalva. Sergeant Galindo is currently working on the training of our 2 new detention training officers. On the inmate support program, Mr. Carrillo had met with Molina and Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and these representatives will determine if inmates currently in the facility are associated with their organizations, and their purpose is to identify and contact them prior to release so that they become reinstated of their Medicaid benefits upon release. These representatives have been added to our daily prisoner in custody list, which we email daily. Mr. Carrillo has also been in contact with Workforce Solutions to implement an employment application program for inmates while in custody. By the end of the year, we're going to probably have a time frame. They could go into the program room, meet with inmates that are going to be released, and help them find jobs. We are awaiting nominations for the month of September. The Grant County Detention Facility average daily population for November 3rd was 89, which was 6 more than reported last period. Our high population of males, 97, 27 more than last reporting period. A high population of 27 females, 11 more than last reporting period. And currently for November 3rd, 2017, there were 91 inmates, 8 more than last month booked into the facility. Arrest totals for the month of October 2017 were 64 for the Silver City Police Department, 35 for the Grant County Sheriff's Department, 27 for New Mexico State Police, 1 for Baird Police, 0 for Santa Clara, 3 for Hurley, and 0 for New Mexico Game and Fish, and 0 for New Mexico Western Police. There is 1 inmate being held for another facility during this reporting period. The detention center facility has had 25 district court transports, 24 magistrate 1 court transports, and 8 division 2 magistrate transports. Silver City Municipal Court and Santa Clara Municipal Court and Baird Municipal Court do their courts through the television monitors in the facility. Medical transports during this reporting period have totaled 8. The total number of transports equaled 65 as compared to 65 of last month. Medical transports remain constant during this reporting period. Also, we have 34 probation violators and 1 parole violator. Inmates awaiting transport to SENS facilities or rehabilitation centers totaled in 7. Total inmates charged with warrants arrest was 64, and the total number of special management inmates on October 12, 2017 totaled 7. Any questions?
Out of those 7 awaiting transport, what is the average time frame that they've been in there? Are they recent, or the JNSs are done, you're just, how long have they been sitting waiting?
Averages of the JNS is 2 weeks, and then the Sheriff's Department scheduled. I think this report was done last Thursday. We've had 2 that have been transported already. There was 1 transported last week, and then 1 transported yesterday morning.
So they're moving quicker than they
Yes.
were? Okay, thanks.
I'm not showing on thing, I'm sorry about that. Earl?
Pretty much business as usual down there at the road department. We did close out the county arterial projects and the school bus project. I'm currently working on the special projects, which is hauling out there to Tyrone Thompson to help that Homestead Road out. I'm hoping to get done with it. We got a short week this week, but I'm hoping by the end of next week we'll be done with it, and then we can close out that project too. That's about it.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Commissioner Brown at the last meeting asked some questions about the airport, and I thought it'd be important to let Rebecca Winger, our airport manager, come and maybe address some of those concerning where we're at with the federal government and what they see moving forward of trying to privatize commercial air service. So, Rebecca.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Black button. White one. Got it. They don't let me out very often, so. So I understand you had questions about the current proposal to privatize
The cutting of the essential air service program.
Oh, okay.
They may be related.
Well, right now, the FAA, just like any of the other departments, everything's kind of in flux. I mean, We have continuing resolutions for funding for the FAA. They did it 2 days before the budget deadline, so FAA is currently funded through the end of March. And so what I thought that you were asking about was that there's been a proposal for the towers, ATC, to be privatized and transfer that to a board that is basically made up of the major airlines and some industry representatives. And so our concern, obviously, with that is that that would really take a focus away from general aviation and small airports, essential air service as well, and put all the funding into a board that would be really controlled by the large airlines. And so right now, while we receive funding from the FAA, the look would be to take things back to the major hub airports. And so the funding that we now receive, we're allocated $150,000 a year by the FAA, would be in jeopardy. And so the argument against it is that, our air service and the air community in this country is one of the largest and most diverse, but we're also the safest. The system we have currently works. Beyond that, the other complaints is that technology is slow with the FAA to be updated, and, these are things that have actually greatly improved in the last 7 years. And so the arguments back and forth really don't balance and don't mesh. And so the GA community and the small airport communities, we've all been, vocal about saying, no, that, the system works, please don't change it, allow, for greater input back from the small communities. So. Any other questions?
That was more than I was asking.
Well,
more than I was asking, but that's
there's a lot going on, yeah. Any other questions about the airport or anything I can answer for you while I'm here?
Do our federal representatives stay in touch with you about?
Yes, we actually have a very vocal APOA community in New Mexico, and so they are really kind of the conduit between the airport managers and back to our congressional representatives. And so I've had several discussions with folks about where we stand, what our input. Grant County is a little bit unique in that there's a lot of GA airports here in New Mexico, but we are actually one of the few that is actually a Part 139. So the regulations that we have are basically the same that you would see in Albuquerque, LAX. We have the same requirements from the FAA. And so, our voice is, a little bit higher on the priority list, when it comes to issues of funding and regulation and other things. So I feel like we have actually good representation.
If a resolution from the county commission would be appropriate, please let us know.
Well, that would be wonderful. I will talk with the APOA and see if they've done that with other commissions. Thank you.
So the $150,000 you're talking about losing is separate from the potential loss of the essential air funding? That's in addition to?
They're actually, they're all kind of tied together. Yeah, our participation in essential air service is because we are Part 139 and we're part of what they call the NIPAS system, the National Integrated Aviation. I'm sorry, I'm losing track of my acronyms, but
I can't imagine why.
there are so many. So they're all kind of tied hand in hand. What we're concerned about with the privatization of the air traffic control system is that that's kind of that first step. That if all the funding that currently goes to air traffic control gets put into one of these, a board that's really focused toward the larger airports, that, it's just the next thing to say, okay, well, our essential air service, well, it's not so essential anymore because, everybody, has to go to a hub. Well, that's what that program is for, is to help our community go to larger airports so that they can then transit out to other areas. So it's just a slippery slope. I think that we're, hopefully keeping enough pressure on. We have a very large and vocal GA community, general aviation community in this country, and it's actually growing for the first time in many years. So,
how many small airports are there in the United States?
Small airports?
That would fall under that general.
It would fall under that? I would have to double check. I wouldn't want to give you a number and have it be incorrect.
Well, where I'm eventually going to go from there, which obviously you can't answer since you can't answer the first question, which is fine. I wouldn't know it either, obviously, but, what's the economic impact of that on rural communities nationwide is what, where I was really headed.
And I wouldn't have an answer for that.
Yeah, bad. Sure.
Bad,
Oh,
yes.
big bad. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other
Thanks so
questions?
much. Do you have anything else, Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we are, Rebecca and I are working, or she's putting together a kind of a PowerPoint that we want to bring to the commission and give a little more in depth on what the 139 airport and what we have going here in Grant County is. So we'll be bringing that to you hopefully in the next month. The other thing is the boiler over at the courthouse has finally been put in. They're hopefully going to light that today, and then insulate the piping. As you know, you may not know that the old boiler was taken out. It doesn't heat the entire facility. Basically, the first floor and a little bit of the second floor. The third floor is by HVAC units and some of the second floor as well. Courtroom has its own heating system, so it won't affect that as well either. But Don Park, we're working hard. Got the guys over there. There was been some complaints about safety railings on some of the steps, so we're addressing those now, trying to get that fixed up. Other than that, just staying busy and trying to can't determine whether we're going into winter or if we're still in the summer, or, people are cold and they're hot, so we're trying to hopefully appease everybody, be patient with us. The facilities that we have, Jason, with the limited crew, is working very hard to make sure he addresses those complaints by some of our leases. So, unless you got any questions, that's all I have.
Questions for Randy? No? Misha?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'll start with Tucasa. Construction is moving forward and on schedule. Sheet rock and stucco have started. I was out there yesterday. We did receive a quote for the furnishings from our architect yesterday. Working with Jacob on that. If everything looks good, I'll generate the purchase order so we can start encumbering that capital outlay funds that we've got. One of the things that CDBG was a little concerned, it's not that they were going to ding us officially, but they brought it up on the monitoring that they're doing, is just to make sure that we have encumbered. They're concerned that, like all other state funds, that it could be taken away if we don't have it encumbered, so working on that. Santa Rita Fire Station, we are still working on the encroachment easement with the NMDOT. That is not stopping any construction. Concrete pour is expected this week. So everything's moving forward on the Santa Rita Fire Station. Conference Center sign, both the digital and the ACE signs have been installed. We're waiting on PNM to install the transformer so that they can complete the electrical connections and get that thing up and running. So other than that, everything else was on the agenda that I've got going on. So if there's any other questions?
I have one, and it might be for County Manager Webb, I'm not sure. The concern about encumbering it reminded me, of course, of our past year. Do we think that there's going to be another clawback during the session?
Nothing would surprise me at this point.
Okay.
So we will have the money encumbered by the end of the year.
Yeah. I just haven't heard word of that this year, whereas last year we were all aware at this point that was likely. So I guess I'm just being sensitive to having heard that.
I am probably, I probably tend to be more overly active, and I plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Okay. Sounds like a good strategy.
I actually think we're going to change up a little bit. I'm less worried than I was.
Yeah, that was my...
Anything else, Misha? No? Any more other questions? Madam Webb, do you have anything?
I don't really have a report. The auditors finished up in our office last week, so they will be wrapping up and having an exit conference hopefully towards the end of the month. That's kept everybody busy. The staff has worked hard through that, and we appreciate all the other departments' patience as we might have been a little slow with some POs or other things, but the auditors are pretty demanding. So I hats off to them for a successful audit. We've just been really, really busy with, you've heard all the projects, and it keeps our office hopping. So I stand for any questions you have.
Do we have an audit committee?
No, we're not required to have an audit committee. Are you referencing who's in the exit conference, or?
Yes, that's what prompted the question.
Typically, what happens in county government is the chairman and the treasurer, the finance director, and myself.
And that's not just typical, but that's what we do.
What we've done for 6 years.
What we've done is what I've done for 17 years.
That works for me. I mean, it sounds like an audit committee, so that sounds good to me. You,
Identify a formal committee, that's
Right.
typically the structure.
okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Commissioner reports, anybody have anything? Kelly? Yeah.
I'll be perfect. Oh, yeah, if you want to say something. Thank you.
Please do.
Go ahead. Yeah, so, I thought it was real funny when Mr. Brown's having trouble with his computer, but then this is actually not mine. This is Bernadette's because I couldn't log on to mine. Then Dave's went down. That was real funny too, till mine went down.
Mine went down.
So it's just sitting there spinning, I couldn't get back on. So I'm not sure, I think I saw you shut yours too, so I'm not sure we didn't all have problems.
I think the timeout is a little too short, maybe the length of the timeout.
And you can't get to the,
But what was happening is, if you go in and reset it, because I think it's timing out, so you have to go in and reset it, and then you come back, and then you're able to catch up. I did that 3 times.
I could never get to the, whatever.
I really want to go live December, I'm just not sure, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
January 1st.
Next year. Anybody else have anything? I don't have that, I'm not talking today. So I'll take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.